Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comic. It is our best new comics of the week. Mike, we got five that we're highlighting today with comics, and no indies today, all big two, which is kind of cool to have at least 4 or 5 books. Some of these we are tentatively recommending. There's a couple we can wholeheartedly say they're great. Two of them, I'm going to mention them, and we'll talk about why I think they're worth reading and checking out. That may vary on your enjoyment of it, though. So we'll start, Mike. One that me and you were both pretty excited about, a classic Marvel character. Marvel All-in-One, #1, Thing versus the Marvel Universe. Ryan North, Ed McGuinness. Mike, it is $7.99. I'll preface that. However, it's 56 pages. You get a premier talent in Ed McGuinness, one of the best in all of comic books, and you basically see him draw every superhero and villain in the Marvel Universe. Of course, it's robot duplicates, and the Thing is taking them down. Mike, I enjoyed the heck out of this because it's a one shot. You don't need 50 other things. It was just, hey, let's take a cool character and draw some cool art. I thought it was great they did that. What do you think of Marvel having a little fun with
the
something like
sheer
that?
the sheer fun of it is great. This has been the conversation that comic book fans have had since its inception. Like, what if Superman fought Batman? What if Superman fought Spider-Man? Who would win, the Hulk or the Thing? And we always love to talk about that as comic book fans. So it's cool to see them put the Thing up against everybody and see how it would turn out. But yeah, I love it. I love that it's fun.
Well, and I think the cool thing with it, you get Ed McGuinness, who's a great artist. He draws the great, cartoony, over-exaggerated superheroes, which is sometimes just what you want to see out of this. What I love about Marvel, the only thing of this, why was this not released closer to the movie? I don't understand. I don't know why you wait a month for the movie to be out, but it was cool to see Ben Grimm get the spotlight. He is one of the most important Marvel characters, really. You could say with Fantastic Four being the first team of Marvel and him being the breakout character of that book. He's a huge part of the bedrock of Marvel. And so it was just cool to see him get a one shot,
I
pull out
like that you
some cool
said
things.
bedrock for Thing. I like that you put that in
I hate that's an unintentional pun. That's a failure on my part, but good catch there. But no, cool to see him get that. Another foundational Marvel character that I would recommend, Amazing Spider-Man #10. Now, the first 7 or 8 issues of this run, I was not a huge fan of. Issue 8, there was a great issue. We did a video on the channel where we highlighted it, showing Spider-Man saving civilians and fighting this Hellgate character. This one, what I will say is there is a Peter Parker running around who's not acting like Peter Parker and a Spider-Man who's not acting like Spider-Man. There's a decent little mystery going on around here. I'm assuming this is Ben Riley, but what I will say is at the very least, I am intrigued to find out what is happening in the book. And it's been a long time with Spider-Man that's been the case. And it's also not a mystery where it's stupid and I'm angry. Instead, I'm actually intrigued to see what they're doing. I think it's again, is Amazing Spider-Man a fantastic comic book right now? No, but I think it's been subtly improving. And this is a decent mystery piece that, again, if they bungle it, it could suck. But I do think it's cool to have at least a little mystery that you're wondering. Mike, it's funny you've been out of Spider-Man for a while. When comic books do mysteries and things like that, about how long do you think the right length is for a writer to drag that out, where it doesn't go too long?
You got to have your payoff. And it's tricky with these things because sometimes, it's conceptualized as a huge story arc, and so they might have conceptualized the big reveal in issue 24, but
Mhm.
then the sales aren't so good, and so then they rush it to issue 12, and so it's a little bit of a mixed bag. But it's good to see them tweaking the flagship character because my gosh, you gotta make sure that that book sells right and sells well. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, Spider-Man being a readable book again is always a good thing for Marvel. And after the Zeb Wells run, again, I'm not going to tell you guys it's fantastic or that, man, you got to run and get this one. But I think if we hadn't had such a long run of bad Spider-Man comics prior to this, there'd probably be a little more excitement for this. And so
Right.
I want to give Joe Kelly credit. Again, if we critique when things are bad, we should compliment when things are good. And I think he's doing a pretty good job there.
I like that he's piqued the interest there and is getting the fans revved up again.
Hopefully it'll continue. Again, the reveal could be awful, and if it is, then everything kind of goes away. But I think overall, not a bad
Would you
start
be
there.
disappointed if it was Ben Riley?
No, as a Ben Riley, again, Peter's one of my all-time favorites, but I love Ben Riley. I would love to see Ben Riley again because the last run had him get mind wiped and turn into a bad guy. If we're bringing back a Ben Riley who's even somewhat more noble, I will
Yeah.
take it.
Okay.
Again, that's where the bottom could drop out on this fast and be bad,
Okay.
but
I'm just
hopefully we'll see
checking.
something
Just
there.
checking the temperature of the waters here.
We'll pivot to DC. Three books that I'd recommend for this week. Detective Comics 1100. Insane that we are that many issues in on this. Again, a little steep on the price point. I will say $5.99 for this. I think it's about 50 pages though. I didn't actually like the back two-thirds of this book, or the back, I guess, half of this book. I will say the reason I am recommending it is the first half has a silent issue with great art by Michael Janin of Batman basically just finding a lost dog for a kid, and you get all the suitable detective skills, fighting skills, and everything great about Batman. But what I loved seeing, Mike, and I think this is an important distinction with Batman, as a Batman fan, with him being my favorite character in all of fiction, I hate when people call Batman an anti-hero. The guy is not an anti-hero. An anti-hero is a shady person who does things for reasons that can't be determined. Batman is a hero. Just because he doesn't smile and wear trunks like Superman all the time, although he does wear trunks too, I
Yeah.
love that they just showed Batman helping a civilian who needed help on something small and not having him be a jerk to a kid. I think you have to capture that with Batman. Mike, what are your thoughts on that?
I think yes, I think it's good to show Batman in his more heroic nature, his more heroic self, and not the brooding doomsday machine that he's become.
Yeah,
And
too
that,
often. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that being said, they are having a limited release of Batman Begins.
Yeah. No, we're getting some old
Did
Batman
you
stuff.
see that?
Yeah, I
Did
saw
you see
that.
that?
I think as
I
the
think it's
DCU ramps up and we get more classics, I think the only thing I would take away from the Superman movie, I think people are tired of superheroes not acting like superheroes. And while I have some
oh
critiques of
yeah.
the Superman movie, the one thing that I will say did walk away from that movie that I saw a lot of people connect with, specifically kids and younger folks, was heroes just acting like absolute heroes.
Yeah.
Superman saving people to save people. And I think Batman, yes, he's brooding. Yes, he's dark, but he's a hero. Give him some freaking heroic moments. I love that and I'm not a Tom Taylor guy at all. I was stunned to see a Tom Taylor Batman comic book that I loved, but credit where credit's due. That was a really cool story to see Batman just showcasing the hero that because just as much as the Christian Bale and Robert Pattinson stuff is accurate, so is the Adam West Batman,
Yeah.
who was just a hero. And so it's cool to see somewhat of a balance of that. I really appreciated them do that, especially for an anniversary issue to do
I
something like that.
agree.
I thought that was cool.
And the
Last
silent story, silent story, that always
helped a lot by the
it
Michael
has
James.
it
Yeah,
has a little gravitas to it when it's yeah, you got to fill in the lines. Yeah.
absolutely. Last two we'll get to, Mike, before we wrap up. Batman and Robin, year one, number 10. I wish this book was doing better. Mark Waid and Chris Samney, always a great combo. Did a great run on Daredevil, a very underrated run on Black Widow as well. But this is a book they've been setting up year one of Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne, the first year that Robin's living there. What I will say about this is there's been a really cool mystery going through all 10 issues of this, but there's an awesome use of Clayface as a villain in this, and that Batman and Robin basically find out some of the people that they have been investigating, it's all Clayface duplicates. I liked that they threw that in, and that Clayface, probably the most underrated Batman villain. I don't know if he should get a solo movie like they're doing, but I do think as a villain, he has such unique potential. And it was cool to see a writer like Mark Waid really plug into that. I love when they use rogues like that in a really cool way. It was great to see that.
Yep.
Last book we'll highlight, Mike. I know you and I are both excited about this, and we're gonna. I will say, I tentatively recommend this. So, Justice League Red number one. Saladin Ahmed on this with I think Clayton Henry. I am not a Saladin Ahmed fan. Saladin Ahmed is writing currently the worst volume of Daredevil in a long time. His Wolverine has really struggled. But this was a pretty good book. Basically, the setup of this Red Tornado is setting up a covert Justice League action team. In this book, we only see the first two members. We do know eventually that Deadman, Cyborg, and a few others are going to join. This issue has Simon Baz, Green Lantern, and Power Girl, who are used along with Red Tornado. Where I'm going to say, I think the plot's okay. I don't love some of the elements of it, but why I am encouraging this book. DC has such a deep roster of characters, and so
Right.
often we don't see any of them. And so, to be honest, Deadman being on the cover, a Neil Adams creation, I am rooting for that to work. Mike, I know for you, DC, we're both DC guys. It's great to see them digging into the roster. Do you think this is something they should try more of trying to bring some of these characters who've been off page for a long time back?
Well, interestingly, you should point out Neil Adams. The first issue of Dead Man was Carmine Infantino
Mm-hmm.
and Arnold Drake,
Yeah.
I do believe. And the second issue, I think Adams took over from there. But that was one of the. I'm glad they're putting Dead Man because he's kind of obscure. But what a great character, to be, the last one that Carmine did before he went into his executive roles at DC Comics. And the master Arnold Drake, penning and co-creating it with him is amazing. So I'm glad he's coming back. Cyborg too. I'm excited to see Cyborg. I'm a big Cyborg fan. So yeah, this is kind of cool.
No,
And
again, the series could ultimately fail, but where I would encourage, I think hopefully some vote. I think the plot's okay. What I will say is, as DC fans, there's so many characters who disappear for a long time, and then they get launched, and I think sometimes we're overly critical. And again, that's not to ignore obvious flaws. But I think this book was okay. And where I'm going to try to support this one for a bit is I would love to see some of these characters like Mr. Miracle and Big Barda and Deadman and
oh
Blue
yeah,
Beetle, Ted Cord. And the DC roster has so many great characters who just get benched for so long. They even have Black Adam show up at the end of this, which is a character I think that just should always be on page. Like they've got so many cool characters, and there just doesn't seem to be enough books or enough well-written books for them. And so I hope they can find a way. It's really cool to see Red Tornado, another one, get a huge spotlight. I just love seeing DC dig into the coffers a little bit and bring out some of these older
Red
characters.
Tornado has a lot of fans from the 90s, and he was in some early 2000s animated stuff, and kids like him. Jackson loved him when he was little.
And he was on that great Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon.
Yeah, yeah,
One of the cooler Batman cartoons. Again, that was a great one that dug deep into the DC roster and kind of
yeah,
teamed him
yeah.
up with some of those, characters that you don't see as often. And that's what I'm hoping. I do hope this is somewhat successful, just because I would love to see so many characters like the Metamorphos, the Blue Beetles, Hawkman, that kind of stuff, where they just seem to disappear for too long. And so I hope we can get a book that gets that. Again, not to ignore the obvious flaws. It's not. I don't want to sit here and tell you this is an amazingly done book, but it was a solid first issue. Could go off the rails, absolutely, but I think it was really cool to see some of those characters. That
I
would be
think you said it could go off the rails.
the one thing I'll
But
say.
it's off to a good start, so I'm going to go with that. I like it. I like that DC's, mining some of their older properties and bringing them out. It's always fun. It's very nostalgic, and I like it. And I think the '90s and early 2000s kids will love it too because they, have a soft spot for old Red Tornado there and Cyborg. So.
Yeah, hopefully it continues to be good. Again, cautious recommendation because of Solid and Ahmed, where he has taken Daredevil has been in a bad place, and so that's a difficult thing. But overall, that's what we'd recommend for the week. Definitely would recommend checking those books out, folks. Let us know what you picked up this week as well. If there's something great that you read, we always love to see that down below. Thank you as always for watching. God bless you all. You have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.